look, what I'm saying here is not new. And if we think about any fitness coaches, any cooks or chefs, any accountants, any of these people that you find online, chances are that the messaging and the information that they're sharing is probably not unique. It's probably not brand new, and they have absorbed that information and they're just simply passing it on through their method of delivery. Their style, their tone, even the way that they explain something is going to be different to the next person who might be sharing pretty much, if not the same information. So for me, I think that quite often we get kind of wrapped up in this world, especially when it is that we're promoting ourselves, that we think, oh, everyone knows that because it's just out there. One thing that holds many of us back, especially when it comes to talking on social media or broadcasting our message far and wide, and I don't know if this is just a British thing or if this is perhaps something that as an employee you're not really kind of given that pathway, and I'm going to take a bit of both from my experience and at least blame it on that. But when you're going into the world of business, it's really, really important that you're able to communicate what it is that you do, what experience you have, what expertise that you can offer, and what solution you can provide to the problem that other people have. And that's what I want to talk to you about on this episode of the Small Business Podcast for Small Businesses. Now, you might notice that Farley is nowhere to be seen today, and that is because she is on her travels. So, Farley, if you're watching this, I hope you're having a great time. But I thought I'd just hijack the podcast and talk a little bit more about kind of my experience and my journey, my pathway, and some lessons that I've learned and I'm still learning and putting into practice. And hopefully this will kind of help you in some kind of way. So if it does, if it's given you some inspiration, if it's given you some motivation, or even if it's thrown up some questions, do be sure to give us a shout. Let us know what you think. We'd be super keen to hear your views on that. Equally, a like, a subscribe and a share on whatever platform you're consuming this would be marvellous too. But getting back into the topic at hand, I think one thing that we all take for granted is just quite how much we know. Now, it might be because we're being British and we don't want to, be too full of ourselves, too braggy, as in a word, about what it is that we do. And we don't want to we think that perhaps people aren't interested. That could be an element of it. But I think there's another element that is really, really important, and that is that we are just assuming that everybody knows the things that we know. For an example, when we're talking about microphones, it seems like everybody has picked up the teeny weeny microphones recently, and they're calling that yapping. Now, to me, that's just talking to camera with confidence, but because somebody's given it a title, it's now a thing. And when I'm seeing lots of content online about how to talk to camera, how to speak more confidently, how to use some of the editing tactics, especially with the short form things, with videos where you kind of add a little zoom in or zoom out effect, how it can just be a little bit more engaging and also increase the interestingness of that person who's, let's ultimately say, if we're on short form media, has got seconds with you before they scroll on past. Now, I've kind of watched some of these things and I thought, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I know that. And I was talking to a client who was helping out creating some content that they're going to start using to shout about what it is that they're doing. And we were talking and he said, look, what I'm saying here is not new. And if we think about any fitness coaches, any cooks or chefs, any accountants, any of these people that you find online, chances are that the messaging and the information that they're sharing is probably not unique. It's probably not brand new, and they have absorb that information and they're just simply passing it on through their method of delivery. Their style, their tone, even the way that they explain something is going to be different to the next person who might be sharing pretty much, if not the same information. So for me, I think that quite often we get kind of wrapped up in this world, especially when it is that we're promoting ourselves, that we think, oh, everyone knows that because it's just out there. Now, for example, Farley mentioned this not too long ago, that I created a video because Instagram brought out a new feature. I saw it online, I thought that would be useful, created it, put it out, and it got quite a few views. I think it was in the thousands. And for me, who's a bit up and down with posting on social media because I've got this imposter syndrome that I'm getting over, for me, that was fantastic. That was phenomenal. That was a breakout video. But Farley already knew that. And because she'd watched it and she'd seen lots of other people talking about it, she just assumed that, oh, actually, I know that, so everybody must know that. But with some of the connections that we share, she noticed that there was a lot of people that are in her circle of people who follow her, who work with her, and or in the same circle, should I say, stumbling over my words there, that they commented saying, oh my God, thank you so much. And to the point being that she was like, oh, well, I could have made that video, but I didn't because I just assumed that everybody knew what it is that I know. And because sometimes we're so in the everyday, we're so much into the projects that we're working on that we take for granted and we forget completely exactly how much value we can provide to people. And why am I talking about this and why is this relevant to you as a small business owner? Well, a big part of that is if we don't tell people what it is that we do, if we don't show people how much value we have to provide, if we're not able to give people a window into what it might be to work with us, then nobody's ever going to know. Nobody's going to ring, nobody's going to book a call, nobody's going to take you up on what it is that you do. And sooner rather than later, if that keeps happening, then, it's going to be tough for us to continue on that pathway. However, if we are able to get ourselves over the line, if we are able to go out and to share our knowledge, our expertise, then we are going to be able to not only build those relationships with those people, but also get more bookings, get more work, and be hopefully healthier and happier because we have got a full pipeline and we're able to continue doing the thing that we're doing, helping as many people as possible, and hopefully being able to be a bit more choosy about the work that we do instead of just like, yep, I'll do that, even though it's not ideal for you. So how do we go about this? Well, I would recommend the KISS method. Now, if it's not February at the time of recording, so I'm not talking about any kind of Valentine's antics here, but basically keeping it simple. So when you're talking about something, you might have a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of expertise, but just dumbing it down slightly will help us to come across better, but also not to put ourselves so out in front of people that we want to help that they think, oh, I feel a bit stupid asking a question. For example, if you were giving a presentation on something and you started using acronyms and the audience isn't aware of the topic that you're talking about, they're not a trained expert in whatever field it is, and you keep throwing in the PID or whatever it happens to be, and they don't have a clue what PID is, then they're going to feel a little embarrassed, perhaps, a little stupid, maybe, and certainly not wanting to put their hand up and asking, excuse me, what do you mean by PID? And I'll tell you for now, I've literally just made up those three letters. But in a very previous world, one that's come into my head, I think because I've used the word P already, or the letter P, is PDR. In the John Lewis world, that means partner dining room. That means where we go and get our food. But if you said the PDR to somebody who's not been familiar to that, then that's going to confuse the living death out of them, isn't it? It works exactly the same for more complex things. If you can make things a little bit simpler, and if you can talk in the language of the person that's potentially interested, or your ideal audience, the potential clients, if you can talk in their language, if you can perhaps relate what it is that you're talking about in terms that will help them understand and have that aha moment, that, oh yes, I get it moment, then again, that's going to help you break down those barriers and hopefully get you through to that sales opportunity. Now, as I said, I am not an expert at this and I'm still learning. So if you have got any tips or tricks or advice, I'd be welcome to hearing those. So do drop us an email, do send us a message, or leave a comment if you're watching this on the likes of YouTube. And a lot of what I've been saying can be used wherever we go as well. Before I leave you, I'll just remind you that this isn't just for talking online. This isn't just for when you're putting things on social media or giving a presentation or writing things on your website. This actually works in person too. When you're having that conversation with somebody, if somebody starts talking in this really complex way, in this really strange language, or just in terms and phrases that are well over your head, are you going to be likely to want to continue that conversation? Now, you might be bold enough to be asking some questions, but for quite a lot of us, we'll think, oh my God, what's this person saying? I just need to get away and speak to the next person. So if you've got a phone call with a customer, if you've got a networking opportunity, just think about how it is that you're communicating. Are you keeping it simple? Are you being able to relate your thing to that person, the outcomes that they're looking for? Then you can translate that from your everyday interactions with people to also being online as well. A great example is the language that you use on your website. So many of us are using AI to get ahead and to do some of the things that we find a bit more mundane. You know, for me, spelling and grammar it's always been an issue for myself, but I've used technology for the longest time to help me out with that. Now, if we're using AI, the temptation is just to say, AI, go and do this. Yeah, that's great. Not even read through what it said and plonk it on your website. Plonk it on a social media post as a caption. But if it's talking in real technical language or real, really strange examples that it's given you, it's not quite hitting the mark, then if it's confusing you, then potentially it's going to confuse your customers too. So hopefully this episode has made sense, but I just wanted to come on and just to say you have got a wealth of knowledge, experience, expertise that you can offer people. You are amazing. And if you're thinking, oh, I'm just feeling a little bit lost for what it is to say, keep things simple. Even though you think most people know what it is you're about to say, the chances are that you're going to give them either a fresh perspective or some new information that will really help them out. So just encourage you to go out there, keep sharing your message, keep posting on the likes of social media, on your website to help the Google ratings, social media to grow that following count. And yeah, let's all grow our businesses together. If you've liked this episode, please be sure to share it with a friend who would make use of it. Otherwise, it's been great to catch up, and I'll catch you in a few.